G'day guys, how are you going? Today we are reviewing the sexiest car I have ever reviewed, the Toyota 86 GTS Apollo Blue, a special color for a really cool car. Now, I was definitely on the bandwagon of people who love to hate this car because it does have some pretty underwhelming performance stats. But have my thoughts changed since driving this car for a week? Well, all I can say is, past Matt, you were a tool. As always, let's start by taking a look at the outside of this car. Then we're going to come in, take a look at this interior, which is surprisingly nice. Then we're going to see how it drives, and finally we're going to end on, is this car worth picking up? I want to start by talking about this paint job because it's only available on the top spec of the Toyota 86, called the Toyota 86 GTS Apollo Blue. Never have I had more people break their necks looking at a car than driving this 86. And it's not because it's an 86. Well, it's partially because it's an 86. It's because it's an 86 in this gorgeous, bright blue color. It is incredibly bright. I can't even get the color on my camera properly. And that's a pretty good camera because this car is so blue. And when you combine that with the blacked out options that this car has as standard, these blacked out wheels, these blacked out mirrors, and the blacked out spoiler, which you'll see very shortly, this car is, I'm lost for words, it's just that cool. Even when driving a Ferrari, not as many people looked at the car than in the 86. The amount of thumbs up and people asking, is that a Celica? I've never had such interest in a car I've driven. In a world of SUVs and big everything, the Toyota 86 keeps everything quite small and it makes it look really cool. There are no big bits of chrome or anything like that. You have these small headlights which are very functional LED headlights, but aren't all that big, aren't all that flashy like you'll find in many other cars. The grille is relatively normal. It does have some fake vents here, but we can forgive Toyota for that because every manufacturer is doing it these days. But otherwise, the front is really, really sporty and it just looks the part. The rear continues the theme of a really cool, sporty, but basic sports car. It's wide at the rear, but it's also low. These taillights are really, really sharp. I love the way that they look. And we have real exhaust down the bottom as well. You don't see that all that often anymore. And then there's that reflector down the bottom, which a lot of owners will swap out and make them real functional lights, which just make this car look even more racy, even more sporty. But by far the best look on the back of the Apollo Blue 86 is this spoiler right here, this matte black spoiler. The way it contrasts to this bright blue paint is incredible. It looks so, so good. Again, if you have the chance to purchase this car in Apollo Blue, absolutely do it. It is gorgeous. The side of the 86 has to be my favorite angle, especially with these 17-inch blacked out wheels, which are exclusive to the Apollo Blue pack. It looks incredible. And then look at these red Brembo brakes compared to the black calipers, compared to the blue body. It is an incredible sight, and this car gets so many looks, especially because of the side angle. And it's not just the wheels that are blacked out, the mirror caps are also blacked out, and of course that spoiler, as we just saw, is blacked out. It's an amazing angle. And even though not much has changed since its release in 2012, it still is a formidable car on the road and is gorgeous when you go past it. Moving on to the interior now, and I want to talk about the good. And the good is the build quality. Now, it is a Toyota product. Toyotas have pretty good build qualities, especially for cars that are a bit on the cheaper end of the market, and this is no exception. There are soft plastics everywhere. We have Alcantara-like suede on the dash, which does feel very, very nice. And just the overall fit and finish of everything inside the car is just really nice and well put together. It certainly is fitting of a car that, like this one, is 44,000 Australian dollars, which, although isn't all that expensive, it also isn't all that cheap for what you're getting. These seats are really, really nice. They are partially leather, partially Alcantara-like suede, but it feels really comfortable to sit in. They are very buckety, but they're not so bad. They don't feel like they're gonna completely constrict me to death. I don't feel like I'm wearing a corset. And then you lean back and it's just so comfortable. For longer drives, this car is a dream, and you feel supported everywhere you need to be. Great seats. Oh, and they're heated as well, which in Australia isn't all that important, but around the rest of the world, I'm sure it matters a lot. Something as well that's really shocked me is the seating position. It is really, really good. Now, I'm not all that tall. I'm 5'11", so I'm pretty average height, but I fit in here perfectly. Plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom. I could easily sit in here with a helmet, which is what I suppose is what it's designed for, but I was very surprised by the overall ergonomics of how I'm sitting. It's really good. I can't help myself. I can't. I need to get onto these engine stats soon. The gauges in this car, even though they are analog, are still awesome because in the center is a huge tachometer, which is what you'll find in the, for instance, ISF I reviewed, which was my first review. And it makes this car feel very sporty indeed. You care more about your revs than you do your speed. And I like that. And then there's this gearbox, which just is such a dream. It has very short throws. The clutch is pretty easy, although it does have quite a lot of movement. But regardless, this gear shifter itself feels really nice in the hands. Fantastic to switch gears. It is a 6-speed as well, but the throws, they're just so short. It's so fun to drive. Now, for all my subscribers out there, you know how much I care about my steering wheel. And this steering wheel is, to be honest, not all that great. It's actually pretty good to drive with. It's a nice leather steering wheel. They made it shorter for the facelifted version so you could more easily control it. The quality of it is actually pretty good, but my biggest gripe with it is that it has blank switches on it. In fact, it's got 4 blank switches on it. And considering this is the most expensive Toyota 86 you can buy, I don't know why those are blank switches, because it makes the steering wheel actually feel quite cheap when you can't press those buttons. I'm not sure if those buttons are used in other markets or why it's not used here, but it does take away from the overall feel of the steering wheel. Next, I want to talk about the infotainment screen, which is not fitting for a car that claims to be 2020. And really, it just makes the 86 show its age, that this car was made in 2012. It certainly feels like an infotainment screen out of 2012. It is very slow to respond. It doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It does have navigation, although navigation in cars these days, if it's not Google Maps or Waze, is pretty hopeless. But this one is extra hopeless because the Toyota system is just not great. In fact, the only good thing about this infotainment screen is that it's a doubled-in unit size, so you can easily swap it out for something that does have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And that's certainly not a great feature when it's being able to pull it out and put something else better in. Also, the climate controls, they feel like they are from 2000, not 2020. They are plastic, they are pretty cheap, they have these red coloring to it, which I guess makes it kind of more sporty, but really just makes it look very dated. I'm not a huge fan of them, and they just don't feel that great and aren't fitting in a car again from 2020. Now, even though we do have a real handbrake, it is huge, it is giant, and it really should not be in the car. I mean, I'm happy they've got a handbrake in the car that's not a button, but it's huge, and it takes up a lot of space in the center console. I think they could have minimized that just a little. But hey, maybe it's functional for drifting. I don't know. Not really my thing. Another issue is there's no center console lid, which really messes up the ergonomics of the car, because I'm trying to put my arm down and rest it somewhere, but I don't really have anywhere to rest it. So I find myself resting it on the handbrake, which doesn't feel that great at all. And it's weird design. I don't know why they don't have it in there. I'm sure they have a reason, but I don't know why. Now let's talk about the back seats. Yes, this car has back seats. It's a 2+2 sports car, but those back seats, the back seats are definitely emergency seats only if you really need to carry 2 people, because you can, but it's a big struggle. In fact, I think the rear seats were designed for a fetus, because no one else could ever fit back there comfortably. When I had the two people riding in this car, the front seat was all the way forward and the back passenger just had enough space. And she isn't very tall. So yes, emergency only. But at least I have the option to carry 4 people if I want to. So I would much rather have these 2 back seats so I can But I would much rather have the ability to have people sit back there than not. So I'm actually pretty happy that the 86 even has back seats. And then we have the boot, which isn't huge, but is surprisingly practical. I could certainly fit more than enough in the back of there if I wanted to, and then drop the back seats if I really needed something bigger in the back of here. But this car is not meant for carrying cargo. Let's be honest, this is a sports car, so don't be fooled into buying something you think is gonna be more practical than a Prius, because it is not. The Toyota 86 has 152 kilowatt of power and 212 newton meters of torque. And it's an absolute hoot to drive. For those of you who think that this is not a sports car, you are absolutely wrong. You do not need straight line performance to be a sports car. And let me be honest with you, this car feels plenty fast enough. Of course, if you wanted to, you could bolt on a turbo or bolt on a supercharger, and that's your prerogative, and probably be pretty fun as well. But you don't actually need those extra kilowatt and newton meters of torque. This car is really fun on its own. And it's a sports car for quite a few reasons. It has almost perfect weight distribution, almost 50-50 across the front and the rear. The engine is set behind the front axle, so it's better handling, better steering. And the body is really, really rigid. There's no body roll when you turn the car, nothing like that. And then if you go for the Dynamics Performance Pack, you get Brembo brakes, you get Sachs racing suspension. Like, this car is awesome, and it's rear wheel drive. This is a sports car and it is so fun to drive. And the best part is that I didn't even break the speed limit then when I was rowing through first to second. When I did that little drift, it was because this car has economy tires, which is intentional. It's meant so that this car will lose its back end. It is an economy sports car and it's awesome. And this color as well, this Apollo blue paint, you'd be silly not to go for it. People snapping their necks to look at this car. Never have I had so many people come up to me and ask me, what is that car? Even when I was reviewing a Ferrari, I didn't get anywhere near as much attention as driving this car in this bright blue. I used to hate on this car because I thought, oh, it doesn't have enough power. And I had never driven it. You have to drive it in this manual with this 6-speed gearbox that feels lovely. And I guarantee you, you will change your mind. Never have I driven a more engaging car. I've had so much fun, I forgot to mention the 0 to 60 time. It's 7.4 seconds. Not that fast, but it feels really quite fast. Now, if you can drive a manual car, you should definitely purchase the 86 as a manual. Because if you buy an automatic, you are punished and you get less power than if you get it in a manual. It's only about 5 kilowatt less of power and about 10 less newton meters of torque, but that adds up and it actually is a relatively significant amount. So if you can get it in this manual, you won't be sorry. If I haven't converted you to this car, there might be something wrong with you. Absolutely, you should go and purchase this car. Maybe not new, maybe not in Apollo blue if you want to save yourself some money. You can go for the base model, which has the exact same engine, slightly less amenity. But if you can get it in the Apollo blue, absolutely do. You won't regret it. And that's it, the 2020 Toyota 86 GTS Apollo Blue. As I said, this car is surprising in every way. It is absolutely a sports car. It definitely feels plenty fast enough, and it is one of the best looking cars I have ever driven. It is absolutely striking and gorgeous. If you can get it in this color, in this package option before it goes away, absolutely do. You will not regret it. It is one of the best looking cars on the road today. And if you did enjoy the video, make sure you go down there and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with a friend who would want to see this really cool Toyota 86. Like, comment down below. and I'll catch you next time.